Memory beyond the skull, Rupert Sheldrake's provocative idea, and what it means for you. Rupert Sheldrake, called controversial by many, brilliant by others, offered a radically different way to think about memory. As you put it, we do not live in a closed world, but in a field that remembers. According to that view, memory is not something hermetically sealed inside the brain, it's a resonant trace in a broader field. Every time you repeat a behavior unconsciously, you're not simply reacting in isolation, you're tuning into a script that has been played out thousands of times before. That line, "we're not just reacting, we're tapping into a script," flips the usual story of agency and habit on its head. Let's unpack what this idea suggests, how it feels in everyday life, and how it might change the way you work with habits, trauma, creativity, and change. A different map of remembering. Most of us were taught to imagine memory as files stored in a filing cabinet inside our skulls, sensory records, episodes, skills, tidy folders labeled first kiss, how to ride a bike, mother's voice. Sheldrake's field metaphor encourages a different map. Memory becomes a dynamic pattern, a resonance, a trace left in a larger matrix. When a pattern has been repeated enough, by you, by many people, by many generations, the field becomes self-reinforcing. The pattern is easier to access. It's like a worn path through grass. The first step makes it, many steps make it permanent and obvious to follow. This explanation reframes why certain behaviors feel automatic. You might call them habits, reactive patterns, ancestral echoes, karmic grooves, or simply the scripts you fall into. They feel inevitable not because your brain is fated, but because the field you inhabit has been conditioned by repetition. That's both humbling and liberating. Humbling because you are partly a node in a network of past actions, liberating because fields can be altered. How the resonant trace shows up in life. Think about the little micro moments. You snap when someone interrupts you, you freeze when praised, you return to the same relationship dynamic, you find the same type of job despite hating it. Those are not just psychological quirks or moral failings. They are traces you are reactivating. The phrase "every time you repeat something unconscious" is crucial. Unconscious repetition strengthens the field. Conscious repetition, on the other hand, works the same mechanism in the opposite direction, intentionally forming new grooves. A resonant trace model also explains phenomena that feel otherwise mystifying. How entire communities adopt the same rituals without a central planner, why cultural habits persist long after their utility has faded, why a skill suddenly clicks after watching someone else do it enough times. In Sheldrake's terms, the more a form of activity is practiced anywhere, the easier it is for the pattern to be picked up elsewhere. It's as if habit has an inertia that extends beyond individuals. Breaking the script, practical consequences. If memory is a field that remembers, the obvious lever is to change what the field remembers. That requires two moves, interrupting the old resonance and amplifying new patterns. 1. Interrupt the loop. The first step is to catch the unconscious repetition. Awareness is the first intervention because unconscious repetition is the engine that feeds the field. A simple practice is to label your impulse, e.g., "I'm about to snap," pause, and choose differently. That tiny pause reduces the immediate reinforcement of the old trace. 2. Repeat consciously. New fields are built by repetition, not once, but often. If you want a kind, calm response to become the new default, practice it deliberately, repeatedly, in many contexts. Rituals, tiny daily practices, and deliberate rehearsal are not just feel-good tricks, they are the way new resonant traces gain strength. 3. Use social scaffolding. Because the field is collective, changing what others around you repeat helps. Join groups, rituals, or teams where the behavior you want is already practiced. The social reinforcement accelerates the formation of the new pattern. 4. Make the environment speak. Altering cues in your environment can nudge the field activation. If the old pattern is tied to a chair, a smell, or a time of day, changing the physical context interrupts the habitual resonance. 5. Gentle embodiment. Practices that integrate body and attention, movement, breath, somatic therapy, can rewire patterns without endless cognitive struggle. Because traces are activated in lived, bodily ways, embodied practices are direct tools for repatterning. What about trauma and deep-seated scripts? Viewed through the resonant trace lens, trauma becomes a particularly powerful kind of script, an intense event leaving a deep trace in the field that is easily reactivated. That's why triggers can seem disproportionate. The field remembers with a vividness the conscious mind didn't choose. Healing, therefore, requires both containment, so the old trace isn't continually strengthened, and the creation of new resonances, safe relationships, corrective experiences, slow, repeated exposures that say to the field, there is another way to be here. Creativity and the field that remembers. There's a hopeful corollary: creativity is field building too. When you practice a craft and put your work into the world, you're contributing to the field's repertoire. The easier it becomes for others to pick up similar patterns, the more cultural evolution accelerates. From this perspective, innovation isn't only a brain achievement, it's a field contribution. You're making new traces that future minds can resonate with. A final, practical thought. Thinking of memory as a field that remembers changes the locus of responsibility in subtle ways. You are not an isolated agent trapped by your wiring, but neither are you merely at the mercy of an immutable cultural script. You are a participant in ongoing resonance. That means the smallest conscious choices matter, because repetition is the currency of fields. Start with a single, tiny practice, the one you can do today, again and again. Over time, you won't simply be reacting less, you'll be changing what the field remembers, and therefore altering what future reactions will look like. Rupert Sheldrake's idea is provocative because it shifts the scale, from neurons to fields, from isolated memory to collective resonance. Whether you take it literally or use it as a metaphor, it offers a liberating way to understand habit, trauma, creativity, and change, and an actionable path to reshape what you unconsciously replay.